let's get straight into it. What's my predictions for this year, 2024? Well, at the time of recording this, I'm recording this on the 8th of January. And over the last few days, we've had many of the large building societies and banks absolutely slash mortgage rates. And it's really come as a shock, I think, to the markets, to us as brokers, that we've started the year with slashing and burning the interest rates on mortgages. Actually, that's going to make predictions due to this sort of short-term, really positive, really welcome volatility. But volatility it is. So it's going to make the predictions a little bit more challenging. But here we go. So I'm going to start with the Bank of England. Now, as I've said on my top bullet point here, I think it has sort of topped out. I don't think that's it takes Einstein to work that one out. We've had 3 months now of stability. And I've used the stability word quite a lot on my recent presentations, and it's the markets love, and they've lapped it up because it allows more certainty for them predicting what's gonna happen. And so the 5.25% rate that the Bank of England have right now, I don't see that increase any further. So I think that's an easy soft start for me to predict that. But if you're expecting, then there's a lot of headlines and there's quite a clamour for the Bank of England to actually drop rates, then I think we've got some time to wait here. So stability for the next, certainly 2 quarters, possibly into right through to September of 2024. I do not see any rate reductions from the Bank of England perspective. So only when we get into the back end of the year, possibly quarter 3, definitely by quarter 4, then we'll start to see the Bank of England start to cut the Bank of England rate. And as I've said on my headline piece here, 3rd bullet point down, I reckon by the end of the year, we'll finish with either a quarter or a 0.5% reduction. The reason I don't see Bank of England dropping rates right now is that inflation is going really well, by the way. It's dropping at a rate actually quicker than the Bank of England had budgeted and therefore predicted. So that's the good news, which is why the Bank of England have taken their foot off the gas and stopped the incremental increases in rates. But it's easier, relatively speaking, to go from over 10% inflation, which is where we were about 6, 7, 8 months ago, down to the 3.9% we're at now. But it's that last 2%. To get from 3.9 down to 2% is a lot harder. So if we keep an eye on that, I think it could be another 6 months before inflation is down close to that 2% figure. And it's only when we're getting close to that figure that I see that being a trigger for the Bank of England dropping their own rates. So we keep an eye on that, but that's my view. Now, what does that mean then for mortgage rates? Because as I said at the head of this piece, the banks and building societies are absolutely having a January sale on mortgages, which is fantastic news. But here's the thing. It's a tale of 2 halves. Now, the halves are the banks and building societies on one hand and the secondary lenders on the other hand. A secondary lender, for those that have not heard this description before, is any institution or organisation that lends for mortgages, but they are not a bank or a building society. So, to give you some examples, we've got Fleet Mortgages, Foundation Mortgages, Kensington, Kent Reliance, Precise, TML, Lendinvest. To give a few examples, these are lenders that only lend on mortgages. So here's the important thing. When we've seen the brilliant headlines from your HSBCs and your Halifaxes over the weekend, cutting rates by up to 1%, these are multinational, multi-billion-dollar turnover institutions who have got fingers in a wide variety of pies. Therefore, if they choose to slash rates on their mortgage products, what they're actually saying is we're not we are comfortable in not making a profit on our mortgage side, but we're making profits everywhere else. So they can take that view. So what these big institutions have decided on for 2024 is to go for market share at the expense of profit. And they can do that for the reasons I've said and still keep the shareholders satisfied. Go to your secondary lenders. They're a one-trick pony. All they've got are mortgages to sell. So yes, they can cut their margins a little, as we've seen at the back end of last year, with rates getting marginally better. But they can't continue to do that, and they can't compete with your HSBCs. So these secondary lenders still have to make a profit. So therefore, my prediction is that, yes, if you are a landlord who can still knock on the door of the high street banks and building societies, in other words, generally speaking, you are a non-portfolio landlord, my apologies. In other words, you've got 4 properties or less, then you'll see the benefit this year, and right now, in fact, of cheaper rates. If you're a portfolio landlord, that's 4 and more properties in the background, then there's a grey area, 4 to 10, you get some high street banks and building societies that will still lend to you. As soon as you get above 10 buy-to-lets in the background, every high street will shut their door on you, and you only have the secondary lenders to go to. So if you've got more than 10 properties, you are not going to see any rates cutting for, again, 6 to 9 months of this year is my prediction. So as we get towards the end of 2024, if you had a portfolio landlord with a significant portfolio of certainly above 10 properties, then what you're seeing now is what you're going to get. So from a decision-making point of view, don't be sat on your hands anymore. The rates that your broker's talking to you about is pretty much the rates you're going to see for half, if not 3/4 of this year. So you can make your decision with some certainty. And it's only as we get towards the back end of the year, mirroring when the Bank of England is going to start to drop their Bank of England rate, because the secondary lenders will be able to get their wholesale money a little bit cheaper, without getting into detail today of that connection with the Bank of England rate, but there is a connection. So I can then see that the secondary lenders will pass on the benefit of cheaper wholesale borrowing and pass that through to you in cheaper rates, but not until the end of this year. And just a final comment, the end of the year is an artificial line in the sand, isn't it? Even though we're talking about 2024. I see it then continuing, certainly with the Bank of England. I see rates dropping into 2025, by the way. And possibly in 2025, it gets a bit fuzzier, doesn't it, the further ahead we look at. But another 0.5 to 1% cut on interest rates into 2025. So the medium-term view is that rates will continue to drop further. But the good news, to summarize all this, is that rates are going to be dropping sooner than I was predicting probably 3 months ago. And that's really all down to inflation dropping at a quicker pace. So hopefully that's been of use to you, gives you a little bit more certainty, allows you to plan for 2024. And that's my predictions for this year.